Welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, August 13th, 2024, the 226th day of the year. It's the 33rd Tuesday and another big news day. Today's podcast could end up being a little longer than most. Just want to warn you up front. We'll see how it goes, but I do have a lot of great Newsmax content to get to. The top story around the world, obviously, is the unprecedented interview or conversation heard around the world, as well as the efforts to stop it from happening.
My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers, and saturated all of our data lines. Like basically hundreds of gigabits of data were saturated. We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. And this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind. So you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation? So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people. And it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Maybe we could start off with, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here.
That, of course, is Elon Musk and former President Donald Trump, who I am pretty sure is the first former president and the first presidential nominee of any party to sit down and speak with anyone on any platform, unscripted and unedited, for 2 hours. As I said yesterday, it could break the platform, X, Twitter, whatever, or break the internet, and it did. 74 million live views at one point, hundreds of millions of impressions, according to Elon Musk's Twitter this morning. And Musk mentioned there were nefarious attempts to keep it from happening, right? But it eventually got going, and he started off talking about the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. I mentioned yesterday that the media coverage of the assassination attempt, the follow-up on the Secret Service, the FBI, the local police, the shooter, the shooter's family, shooter's friends, everything you would normally see have been completely dropped by the big networks. Nothing at all lately in regards to the assassination attempt. You will be hearing plenty today about Trump's conversation if you didn't hear it last night.
This is a really big point. You can actually have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
And you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like it's not possible.
That's true.
This is like talking to an NPC.
No.
So it's just impossible.
Well, but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about.
The Harris-Walz campaign issued a written statement slamming the event as spreading hateful and unhinged propaganda. And it went on to read, I'm quoting, "The richest man in the world is a lackey for Team MAGA." Well, maybe Elon was planning on having a conversation with Vice President Harris if she were willing to sit down and have a conversation with him or anyone else. Or maybe he was eventually going to get to the vice presidential nominees. They also made a point of saying on Twitter, we're not going to call it X. Why not? I mean, what's that all about? That's even more strange. What is that supposed to mean? I don't know. And they said Musk is using his vast fortune to control our democracy. Yeah, by having an open forum and letting people say what they want to say. What a threat to democracy. By the way, the second or third richest person in the world, Jeff Bezos, is a lackey for Democrats and owns a newspaper that doesn't offer people the opportunity to do anything other than pay and get their information. In fact, one of its reporters actually asked White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre during yesterday's press briefing if there were any way they could shut down the conversation or intervene. Listen to this.
Elon Musk is slated to interview Donald Trump tonight on X. I don't know if the president is going to tune in. Feel free to say if he is or not. But I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's a America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that, or stopping the spread of that, or sort of intervening in that? Some of that was about campaign misinformation, but it's a wider thing, right?
Yeah, no, and you've heard us talk about this many times from here about the responsibilities that social media platforms have when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. Don't have anything to read out from here about specific ways that we're working on it, but we believe that they have the responsibility. These are private companies, so we're also mindful of that too. But look, it is. I think it is incredibly important to call that out as you're doing. I just don't have any specifics on what we have been doing internally as it relates to the interviews. Not something that I'm tracking, and I'm sure the president's not tracking it either.
She said it's something I'm tracking, and I'm sure the president is not tracking it either. Did she mean that the president is tracking it, or that she is also not tracking it? They don't have a problem either way, though, with other media companies deleting information and images, especially related to the assassination attempt. More from Governor Mike Huckabee on Wake Up America.
Just a question, Governor, because normally you're so optimistic. Are you nervous about this election right now?
Oh, absolutely, Rob, I am. I wish I would say that, I'm very confident this is going to be a cakewalk. But there are a couple of reasons that I'm not that confident. First of all, the average American doesn't get good information. They're lied to, not just by the mainstream media, but look what happens to the disinformation that comes from Facebook, that comes from YouTube, a Google search, and then add to that my concerns, and I think it's shared by a lot of Americans, that there will be every way possible that Democrats will try to rig and cheat and find a way to extend ballots to illegal aliens and God knows who else. That ought to be a real concern. Republicans can't sit back and say, yeah, people see the obvious. They know what they were paying for bacon, bread, butter. They know what gasoline used to cost. They ought to know it. They ought to know that if they're not $11,000 a year ahead in their salaries under this administration, they've lost ground. That's how much inflation has gut punched the average American family, $11,000. But I just watch these people that say, I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican, but I'm voting for Kamala because I don't like Donald Trump's name-calling and tweets. My gosh, I can live with some tweets and name-calling. I want America back where the Department of Justice doesn't go after people it doesn't like, because some of those people it doesn't like are people like me.
Just a quick one, Governor, about 30 seconds. So the Harris campaign, and this is all they've got at this point, and the media is fine with this for whatever reason. They put out a statement last night during the Trump-Musk sit-down, and they said that Elon Musk is using his vast fortune and broad reach to try and control our democracy. And I'm just scratching my head and laughing at the blatant hypocrisy from the Harris campaign that is literally being propped up and has been totally created by a totally complicit and compliant media. What do you make of that?
Ask George Soros and Mark Zuckerberg and a bunch of the other media giants and the people that run Google. Ask them how well it's going for them, because they sure are putting their hands on the scale and tipping it for the Democrats. Cry me a river, Rob. I ain't buying that stuff, that somehow an open interview with President Trump is unfair. Let Kamala go for an hour with Elon. That would be fair.
Former presidential candidate and Governor Mike Huckabee, the Huckster, on Wake Up America. All right, let's move on to Greg Kelly.
All right. Dangerous, radical, lying, liberal. You know it. I know it. Even the fake news, deep down, they know it. And maybe even Kamala knows it herself, huh? But there's something going on. It's a mass psychosis driven by big tech, big media. Who knows who the hell else is involved, but somehow she has gone from this into a girl boss, right? Everybody's so enthusiastic about Kamala. How can this be? It's an illusion. It's bizarre. It's like right out of the parallel universe Star Trek episode where everything was backwards. Incompetent suddenly looks spectacular. And, well, she is wowing the people, right? With her policy command? No. With her empathy? Not really. With cheap stuff like this.
Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
Oh, you go, girl. That was not funny and not interesting. I think they were saying that line in like 1985. And then her buddy, Walz, another dangerous, radical, lying liberal. Those of us who have been tackling his record know that. Those who haven't or just refuse to acknowledge say he's coach. He looks like regular people. What a guy. What a swell guy. You know, he's from the Midwest. After all, he was a teacher. What can be wrong with that? And, well, he seems to get along with Kamala. I mean, aren't they cute together? He has a lot of these very weird mannerisms if you watch him for more than 2 minutes. But look, we're not buying it. All right. Big tech, the media, academia, our culture in general want us to accept them. And we can't. They are radical, even for pro-abortion enthusiasts. This stuff is really, really crazy. The Protecting Reproductive Options Act. He, after Roe was tossed out by the Supreme Court, this looks kind of benign, right? Delete 22 and insert 39. What did they do? You can have an abortion in Minnesota all the way up to 39 weeks. That's basically 10 months. That's basically infanticide. It's basically murder. How can you? How could anybody? Now, they'll say, well, you know, there's a very small percentage of people who actually, very small percentage of people, when you think about it, get murdered. But we still have laws against it, right?
Greg Kelly is the host of Greg Kelly Reports, weeknights 9 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. And then at 10 o'clock Eastern, it's Chris Plante and the Right Squad who spoke with rock star and patriot Ted Nugent last night.
The Democrat, this is one of our two major political parties in the United States of America, and we saw Joe Biden kicked to the curb so they could go to their relief pitcher here, and it's Kamala Harris, really, who has done what exactly with her time in public life again, Ted?
Well, if Kamala Harris is the choice of the Democrat Party for the President of the United States, then I'm Caitlyn Jenner's boy toy. I mean, talking about getting kicked to the curb. She was kicked to the curb by the entire liberal communist, Marxist, Democrat left during the debates because she deserved to get kicked to the curb because she's not to be believed. Her entire record, if you want America to be like her San Francisco, you know, the feces and needles capital of planet. If that's your vision for America, then she's your guy. This is really dangerous times, and I know we make light of it, and we have to actually plummet this a little comedy once in a while because it's so painful. So I got to tell you, Chris, the points you brought up, we know these things. They're so obvious. They're glaringly obvious. But the most dangerous indicator today is that swath of humanity that buys into it. Now, I don't believe her crowds are anywhere near the size that they claim they are, but there is a swath of lunatic fringe humanity that watched her self-implode during her last attempt to be president. And now all that condemnation, appropriate condemnation and criticism, is now somehow doesn't exist any longer. So keep doing what you're doing. There's a lot of really smart people out there, and I hope that all the smart people vote. And here's something that we're doing, Chris. We have a HunterNation.org. It's a nonprofit, HunterNation.org. We don't endorse anybody, but we find those licensed hunters that have never voted, and there's a bunch of them. We know they believe in God, country, law and order, being the best that you can be, that man in the arena, but they don't vote. So HunterNation.org is tapping in to those spectators of the American dream, because the self-evident truth that guides the greatest quality of life is not a spectator sport. It's a participatory sport. So we're reaching out with HunterNation.org, and we believe we've got the margins if they would just vote their belief system.
And Ted Nugent, why is Donald Trump the right man for our times?
Well, because he's cocky, he's smart. He's a businessman that has a vapor trail of success. Every policy of Donald Trump for those glorious 4 years proved to increase the quality of life for all of us. Even the people who hated him had a better quality of life. Yeah. They could afford groceries, they could afford gas, they could afford a home, they could afford a hunting trip, they could afford a boat and some skis. Donald Trump really is a pragmatist. He's a utilitarian. It's the kind of people that I have campfires with every weekend. Again, I have the sunrise safaris, and people come and they're just hardware store operators. They're farmers, ranchers, cops, sailors, Marines, Army. They're just great, great families. And if you find a hunting family, that defines down to earth. So they've got to be utilitarian. They've got to be pragmatic. And they all love Donald Trump because even though he's this Wall Street guy, he's this New York City guy, he's more down to earth than any of the historical politicians that we've been taken advantage of by. So we know that Donald Trump is the real McCoy. And again, it's his policies. I don't care about his haircut. I don't care about anything except quality of life, constitutionally guided common sense policies that puts America first. Think of the other side, Chris. They don't like people who believe you should put America first. That's all you need to know.
Ted Nugent on with Chris Plante and The Right Squad. Even people that hate Donald Trump know they were better off with Donald Trump. That's what he said. That is the key to the whole election. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Is the country better now than it was 4 years ago? Don't forget, Tim Walz says he is a hunter as well. Yesterday, I played a clip of Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance saying we want to raise the child tax credit. I said maybe Kamala Harris will start saying that too, since she's now saying she wants to make tips tax-free. The great Sebastian Gorka spoke about it with Allison Maloney on Monday's Newsline.
And let's just be clear here. A lot of worrying, consternation. Oh my gosh, she's so popular. As the great Rich Barris, one of the few posters I trust, said on Twitter yesterday, he said, if you're stealing the other candidate's policies, that's not because you're winning. So whether it's lying about being tough on the border or literally stealing word for word the president's no tax on tips, this is a bad sign for the Kamala campaign, and they're desperate. They have no ideas. Her website, we're 3 weeks in, her website has no policies on it. The only interesting thing on her website is that last week on Thursday, they deleted Command Sergeant Major from in front of Tim Walz's title. So that's the only thing happening on her website.
Yeah, there's nothing on her website about policy. If you go on, there's a lot of places that you can donate. I mean, the homepage, every little page there that you click on, donate. And she was asked when she's going to start putting policies out there. And she said, well, sometime next week. I mean, Sebastian, I don't understand. You're running for president and you don't have a policy on your website. You haven't really talked about what you plan on doing. But then if you look at people who support her, they don't really know why they're supporting her, though.
Yeah, I played a video last week of female voters being asked about Kamala, and very wisely, this was Campus Reform asked the voters, so do you like Kamala Harris? And they said, yes, she's great. And then they went back and asked every single one, why? None of them, not one of them could give you a policy because, look, what is the only thing she's known for? Being the border czarina. And if that's the case, you can't memory hole that. You can't delete that. She is responsible for letting in more than 20 million illegals. She's responsible for the death of Jocelyn Nungare, for Lakewood Riley, on and on and on. So, yes, they're desperately trying to reinvent her. But if you've been awake for the last 3.5 years, if you've got a pulse, you know the economy, open borders, crime. This is on the doorstep of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You can't wash that off her. The three issues Americans care about, open borders, crime, and the economy, she is part and parcel. Oh, and by the way, she was the tie-breaking vote to pass the bill that would have taxed tips, okay? She can't run away from that, no matter how much she hides.
That's former White House advisor to the Trump administration and Newsmax host Sebastian Gorka. Our Mike Carter went to the vice president's campaign event in Nevada over the weekend to speak with Harris supporters and see what they have to say.
We're now 3 weeks into Kamala Harris's presidential race. And while the vice president may not be doing any interviews, she is holding campaign rallies, like her latest one in Las Vegas.
Hey, Nevada!
So we figured if the vice president won't talk to us, maybe her supporters will. What is the most important policy issue that she holds that is important to you?
I would say freedom.
You already know what her message is. You already know what her platform is. And so it's
What
not
is
that
her message?
Her message is unifying the nation.
And I would have to say, as a man, I would have to say women's reproductive freedom.
As a man?
Yeah, because why? Because we're all born to mothers, right?
Mothers who had us.
Yes.
So, but what can be unburdened by what has been?
Is that a trick question?
Yeah. Where does Kamala Harris stand on fracking?
She actually used to support it, has evolved her...
I thought she used to be against it.
I'm sorry, did I say that? Yeah. She used to be against it in her previous campaign, right? But
does she owe it to you, the voter, to talk to the media, though?
All right.
I don't believe so. I believe, let's have a debate. Let's have a conversation.
Well, Trump says he wants 3 debates. She hasn't agreed to more than 1.
But you know what? He thought he was going to debate someone else.
Right. But it seems like she's tried to appease people like this. She didn't choose Shapiro from Pennsylvania as her VP. She's kind of waffled on her stance on Israel, but nothing will appease these people.
I don't think Israel's a bigger issue. I think Ukraine is a bigger issue.
Tim Walz once said that he wants to take weapons of war off the streets, the same weapons of war that he carried in war, but he didn't go to war. So why would he say that?
I don't know. That doesn't bother me. I don't know. I think, I don't know.
Did he choose Congress over combat?
I don't know. I haven't checked into that.
I'm part of the staff. I'm on the campaign.
Oh, you're on the campaign. All right. Let me ask you a question. You're on the campaign. It's been 3 weeks now since she's been the nominee. When is she going to talk to the media? You work for her.
Yep, that's not uncommon. Any questions you can ask the media.
Should she talk to the media?
Yeah, that's a question you can ask the media department.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. In Las Vegas, for Newsmax, I'm Mike Carter.
And our thanks to Mike. So we got a lot of I don't knows, I don't cares. And then when asked the one guy the most important policy issue, he just said freedom.
Charlotte McBride on Wake Up America with Newsmax correspondent Mike Carter. A lot of I don't knows and I don't care. The only thing that they know and the only thing they care about is keeping Trump out of the White House. It doesn't really matter who it is or what the policies are, as long as it is not Trump. And as I've been saying all along, do not underestimate Trump derangement syndrome. Did you see this? A California sheriff is very upset that he was featured in a political ad for Kamala Harris in which she touts border security, of all things. Tulare County Sheriff Mike Bordeaux said in a statement, in light of a recent ad put out by Kamala Harris featuring Sheriff Bordeaux as well as other local law enforcement, the sheriff wants to make it abundantly clear that his image is being used without his permission, and he does not endorse Harris for president or any other political office. That's verbatim from the statement. Meanwhile, the actual president, remember him, the acting president, President Biden, returned to the White House yesterday from the beach, and other than a stroll across the grounds, he had nothing on his calendar for the remainder of the day. Today, Tuesday, the president and first lady are in New Orleans, where they're both expected to speak at a medical research facility about cancer research, cancer treatments, and then back to the White House. On Wall Street, stocks got off to a solid start this morning following an overnight rally in Japan. This after a relatively flat day yesterday. Talk about the Feds eventually lowering interest rates and corporate earnings is continuing to dominate the financial news again this week. Yahoo Finance has an article that claims 60-year-old Tim Walz has no investments. The subtitle says, a rarity for political figures at this level. And I'll add that it is a rarity for most 60-year-olds in general. Does that make him a good, neutral, not crooked, not insider trading candidate, or just not a very smart guy? Or maybe he just has all of his investments in his wife's name. All right, be sure to keep up with all of the news on Newsmax, Newsmax.com, and Newsmax Plus throughout the day. For the most complete lineup of your favorite shows and guests, make sure you have Newsmax Plus. Rob Schmidt tonight, Greg Kelly reports, Frontline with Carl Higbee, Wake Up America, and more with analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, political analyst Mark Halpern, Carrie Lake, Judge Napolitano, and many, many others. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to and continue to share it with your friends and family. Have a great rest of the day and night, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.